how do I learn how to say no to people? If you've ever felt like it's a difficult thing just to say no to people, and you find yourself constantly feeling like you're battling, wishing that you would have said no to something and then find yourself doing it over and over again, well, I've got your back. In today's episode, we're going to talk about my 5 best tricks that I'm going to give you to be able to harness that power of saying no. I'm also going to teach you how to stop being a people pleaser if that's something that you kind of tend to do. And on the last part of this video, I'm also going to show you how you can learn to identify manipulation so you can be able to feel that you have the power back in your hands. All right, guys, this is super important to me because I see so many women, especially, and men, but I see a lot of women and men in the field right now who are in nursing, who are nurse practitioners, who are providers, who are medical healthcare professionals in general, who are saying yes constantly to other things that do not serve them, that take them away from time with their family, that take them away from feeling like their best self, and it's causing a lot of burnout. It's causing a lot of issues within our healthcare system. And I want to help give some tips and tricks for that, because the first thing in finding you a way onto a path of happiness and a life of living free and happy is a lot of the times being able to say no to other things. Once I started to learn how to say no to things that no longer served me, I started to see my life grow and flourish in different areas, and I also want that for you. So let's go ahead and talk about my 5 top tips that I'm going to have for you in showing you how you can also learn how to start saying no and being okay with it, not beating yourself up afterward. The first thing I want you to do is write down your priorities. Write down what you want in life. Look at that every single morning and start to decide, hey, if this doesn't serve me, if this doesn't make me happier, I probably shouldn't do it. Now, I'm not saying that we don't sacrifice time and that we don't, look after our Lord and Savior and how he sacrificed himself for others, and that we shouldn't try to model that as well. However, whenever it starts hitting those points where I can no longer function, I'm really burned out, I'm not feeling like my best, I'm no longer happy to be at work or to be where I'm at or feel like I'm serving people, then it's causing actual negative effects. The second tip that I want you to write this down is remember that when you say no to something else, you're saying yes to yourself, you're saying yes to your family, you're saying yes to your happiness, you're saying yes to so many other things, and that isn't a bad thing. Sometimes we have to restructure that in our mind to where we can give ourselves that acceptance to say no because we know that we're saying yes to something else. I've done that many times in my mind where I know that I don't want to do something, I don't want to take on an extra responsibility, I know that I don't have the time to do that, and if I do, then I'm going to be telling my son, I'm sorry son, I'm going to be late again, or I'm not going to see you, or I'm not going to be there for X, Y, and Z thing. And I literally envision myself telling my son no. And that makes it a lot easier to say no to somebody else whenever they're wanting me to do something. The other thing that I think about is, where are my priorities? So like we were saying before, kind of understand and know what you want in life and what your priorities are. And that can really and truthfully help you. An example I have for you was just a few weeks ago, my employer asked if I could start covering at the COVID unit. And normally, naturally, I would say, yeah, I would, I could help out. They weren't asking me to do extra hours. It was just, shut down my clinic for a day and go and do that. And while I don't really want to do that, I would have been willing to do that here and there. However, I'm now pregnant. So I almost said, it's okay, Lauren, you're gonna have a 95, it'll be all right. And then I stepped back and I said, no, what is really and truthfully a priority here? What are the things that are really important to me? Of course, making sure that my child is happy and healthy and that we have a great pregnancy and the healthiest one out there, that's my number one priority. And I stepped back and I said, what is your number one priority, Lauren? Is it being a nurse practitioner for others, or is it being a mother to your unborn child? For sure, it's the second, it's the latter. It's being a mother to my unborn child. So it was easier for me to say that because I literally forward paced that and thought about having complications in her pregnancy or having things go wrong that I don't want to. I know that pregnant women are a high risk right now. Thankfully, my employer completely understood and it wasn't even an issue at all, which brings me to my next point. And the third thing that I want you to write down and remember is that it's probably going to be fine either way. Even if you say no, it's going to be okay. More often than not, we ramp it up in our heads and we start using what's called false prophecies, saying this is a trick of anxiety and depression. And it tells us that if I say no to this, then they're not going to do X, Y, and Z for me, or I'm going to feel bad, or it's going to make it look bad on me, or whatever it is. We start forward pacing that. We start putting in extra things that aren't even true. So the third part of that is just remember that it's going to be okay either way. The fourth tip and trick that I want you to remember, and really and truthfully write this down because this is a really pretty smart one, is position yourself to where you're looking out for the other person. Sometimes I'll say, I would love to be there for you, but I know where I'm at in my walk in life right now, and I just would not be the best person for that. And that job deserves somebody who can absolutely give it its all, and I'm really not that person right now. So I want you to get the best results in the task that you're asking me to do, and I'm not that person right now. And just hold to that. Don't try to let them say, no, you really are, or there's nobody else or anything like that. If this is something that is a priority to you, if it is something that you know you need to prioritize, then do that. But you can reframe it to where it's important to them. Another thing is to be creative. Sometimes we can leverage things. Don't be afraid to leverage things. I'm speaking especially to my women colleagues here. We tend to be afraid to ask for something in return. I do that all the time. I say, hey, that's totally fine, but I really need this day off, or I need this done, or I need some extra help here. I need something else somewhere else. And that's a great time to just put that in there, ask for it. And if they can't, then say, well, I don't know how I would be able to balance that because I do have these other priorities. And just being confident in that. Now, the next part of this, and something that I think is super important to remember, is that people tend to respect people who say no on occasion. Now, you don't want to just completely not be a team player. You don't want to not be there for other people all the time, just like we said before. However, if you're constantly somebody who always says yes, and you're constantly someone who gets kind of rolled over, in the long run, it doesn't actually help you. It can actually hurt your advancement in your career because they don't look at somebody as an authority figure, as somebody who can take on more power, because they don't even have the power for themselves to be able to commit to themselves and say that, I'm going to prioritize myself and my health. Then how can they be somebody who can prioritize progress for other people? I know you're dying to get to that next point, but before you do, click a little like on this video for me if you don't mind. That would be super awesome. It would mean a lot to me. Plus, I love knowing that you're here. It makes me feel like what we're doing here is making a difference in the world. Isn't that the biggest part of everything? So I'd appreciate the like, and let's get on to the next point. Now, that brings us to our next point. I want to talk about how we stop being a people pleaser. So the first thing is that you really have to realize you do have a choice. You can say no. Even if everything completely falls apart after you say no, it's okay. Life will go on, but realize that you do have a choice. Part of that, some of us have to leave that martyrhood behind. So what I mean by that is a lot of people will say, well, I have to, myself included, I've been there before. This is something we talk about in Healer to Home, and it transforms a lot of lives because we start to realize that, hey, I've been looking at this the wrong way. I kept on saying that I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm always doing this and I'm always doing that and I'm doing something else for somebody else. And we're throwing that out there and it's making us look like, oh, we're just so great and we're doing so much for other people, when really we're just using and abusing that martyrness. And that's a really bad place to be in. Hey friend, I'm so excited that you're still here. Thank you so much for watching. But if you've watched this far, you must be kind of digging the information. So make sure that you click the subscribe so you can get all the updates and all of the goodies whenever I start updating and uploading more videos. But thanks for being here. Now, the third and last point that I want to talk about here is making sure that we understand and recognize when we're being manipulated. This is a really important part of this because manipulation happens all the time. The typical formula, I want you to write this down, the typical formula for manipulation is a compliment to you but the other person gets the benefit. That could come in the form of, I really need you to do it. There's nobody else who can do this near as good as you. Can you please do this for me? And you know that it's benefiting the other person. That's a great form of manipulation. Another form of manipulation that we might see, typically we don't see this in the workplace, we see this in the home life more often, but the other point of manipulation might be that somebody blows up and they get really mad and they say, this is all your fault, why I'm so mad and why I'm doing this and why this has happened. So I need you to make it better for me. That's another form of manipulation. So if you recognize those, remember, the basic formula of that is how great you are or how you need to do something to make my life better. Now, just recognize it, and once you see it, that makes all the biggest difference, because you can actually start to say, you know what, this isn't right. I know manipulation isn't right, so I don't feel bad for saying no to that. And that can give you back the power. Part of this, I just want to leave you with a few words that you can use to really help yourself move in that momentum. And because sometimes we just need to have at the tip of our tongue something that is already orchestrated, something we've already written down, we've already planned out, we know we're going to use. So I want you to try to consider actually thinking about using these exact verbiage whenever somebody's asking you to do something that you don't want to do more of. Simply say, I won't be able to make it. Sorry, I won't be able to make it. You don't even have to say sorry. You don't have to be sorry for that at all. You can say, unfortunately, I'm at capacity. Nobody needs to ask. Nobody even needs to know exactly what that means. As a matter of fact, leaving them asking a few questions and saying, what does that even mean, capacity, might make them so baffled that they don't even ask for more. And hey, leave it at that. Sometimes we're the worst at keep on going and keep on talking. Don't do that. You can say, I'm honored, but somebody else can dedicate their time that deserves this more, or that could do better at it, or whatever it is, and just reflect that compliment, especially if it's something that's manipulation, and be able to say no in a nice way. Of course, you can always say, I'm sorry, I have plans that day. Your plans do not have to be anything extravagant. Sometimes my plans are simply prioritizing my mental health. And that can be as busy as you need to be. In our world, we are expected to be so super busy that if we're not busy all of the time, we feel like we're worthless. Guys, that isn't a good place to be in. That isn't the right place to be in. Sometimes being busy is literally, I'm busy taking care of my mental health, doing absolutely nothing, and that's okay. That's a great place to be in. So if you're needing more help with this, if a lot of this resonated with you, I would love to invite you to our next Healer to Home. We are doing a challenge where I can help you overcome this, and you can be a part of a community of healthcare professionals who also need to be able to say no to other things so they can say yes to themselves and to their families. We're going to learn how to be time hack warriors so you can physically have more time on your own. We're going to learn how to overcome that burnout and that stress. We're going to overcome all of the several different things that we talked about in a very in-depth manner. And then we're even going to help ourselves find and start our own profitable passion projects. I really and truthfully believe in the power in giving you something that allows you to be able to work because you want to, not because you have to. So you can have that power in saying that, you know, I don't absolutely have to be here for this. I have another income. So if that interests you, please feel free to comment below or click the link below and we'll get you in. It's been a blessing to me to see so many women come out of this on the other side and be so much more confident and have more time in their day and be able to be home with their family. Other women have gone on and literally built profitable passion projects that completely change the trajectory of their life.